Flying aircraft carriers might sound like something out of science fiction, but it's not anymore. In fact, it dates back to the World Wars. Then, there were experimental attempts to create flying aircraft carriers, though they were never fully realized. Now, with advancements in technology, the concept is getting a fresh look. The US is leading the charge. By turning aircraft carriers into flying platforms, they're pushing the boundaries in naval aviation. What is the newest innovation concerning flying carriers? Join us as we discuss how the US billion-dollar flying aircraft carrier is finally ready for action. The motivation behind the US flying carriers. The growing interest in flying carriers can be largely attributed to the sheer dominance of American sea-based aircraft carriers today. Did you know that a whopping 25% of the world's aircraft carriers belong to the US? Their total deck space is more than double that of all other nations combined. It's no wonder they're at the forefront of this innovation. Take, for instance, the USS Gerald Ford, the lead ship of the Ford class of aircraft carriers. It boasts some impressive features that make it a force to be reckoned with. Let's dive into what makes these carriers so remarkable. The Gerald Ford class aircraft carriers are truly a marvel of modern engineering, symbolizing American naval supremacy and ushering in a new era of maritime warfare capabilities. Named after the 38th President of the United States, these supercarriers represent a significant leap forward in naval technology and operational flexibility compared to their predecessors. First and foremost, these carriers are massive. They're the largest ships ever built for the U.S. Navy, spanning an impressive length of approximately 1,092 to 1,116 feet and weighing a staggering 100,000 tons. With a price tag of around $113 billion, they incorporate over 23 new technologies, including advancements in propulsion systems, electromagnetic aircraft launch systems, advanced arresting gear, machinery controls, radars, and integrated warfare systems. These innovations enabled the Ford-class carriers to achieve a 33% higher sortie generation rate, while saving significant costs compared to the previous Nimitz-class carriers. The Gerald R. Ford class also offers a substantial reduction in lifecycle operations and support costs, approximately $4 billion per ship, compared to its predecessors. But it's not just about size and cost savings. These carriers are designed to transform naval warfare. With improved systems that enhance interoperability among other platforms in the carrier strike group, as well as with the naval forces of regional allies and partners, the Ford class currently serves as the most agile and lethal combat platform in the world. One standout feature of the Gerald R. Ford is its 11 advanced weapons elevators, capable of lifting heavier loads up to 24,000 pounds compared to those on other carriers. These elevators streamline the movement of weapons from storage to the aircraft on the flight deck, reducing traffic problems and significantly speeding up rearming operations. Moreover, the USS Gerald Ford is powered by two A-1B nuclear reactors, smaller and simpler than previous reactors, but significantly more powerful. These reactors provide a power generation capacity at least 25% greater than those in Nimitz-class carriers, ensuring the Ford class remains at the forefront of naval technology for decades to come. Speaking of longevity, the Navy expects the Gerald R. Ford class to remain part of the fleet for an astonishing 90 years, until the year 2105. This means the class must effectively adopt new technology over the decades, with half of its electric power generation capacity reserved for future advancements. Currently, there are plans for 10 ships in the Ford class, with 5 announced so far: USS Gerald R. Ford CVN-78, USS John F. Kennedy, CVN-79, USS Enterprise CVN-80, USS Doris Miller, CVN-81, and CVN-82. The USS Gerald R. Ford CVN-78, the pioneering aircraft carrier of its class, was commissioned on July 22, 2017, marking a significant milestone in naval history and solidifying its place in the fleet. And let's not forget about the aircraft themselves. Up to 75 fighter jets and unmanned aerial vehicles can be stationed on the USS Ford at any given time. Among them is the F-35C Lightning II, the Navy's go-to fighter jet. With its versatility and capabilities, it's no wonder it's the most expensive weapons development program in Pentagon history. How fiction can be made. Reality. Technology never stands still. The USS Ford is already equipped to handle the next generation of fighters, ensuring it remains at the cutting edge of naval aviation. And with programs in place to develop airborne versions of these carriers, the sky's the limit for U.S. military dominance. All of these advancements combined make the U.S. Navy virtually unbeatable at sea. And with plans for airborne carriers in the works, they're poised to extend that dominance into the skies. It's an ambitious goal, but with the technology and resources at their disposal, it's one they're well on their way to achieving. While real flying carrier concepts may not be as flashy as Marvel's SHIELD helicarrier, which is a fictional creation, they're still pretty groundbreaking. Originally, helicarriers were designed to rely on 4 massive turbine engines to keep them airborne while still retaining their seaborne capabilities. But after the attack on the helicarrier, Tony Stark stepped in and upgraded them with repulsor technology. This upgrade was a game changer, as it allowed the helicarriers to stay in the air indefinitely, no longer dependent on turbines. SHIELD made great use of these helicarriers as highly strategic mobile bases. They could deploy from anywhere and perform a variety of operations, from reconnaissance to stealth deployment and direct strikes. It's like having a floating headquarters that can go wherever it's needed, providing support and firepower to agents on the ground. The technology behind helicarriers was partly inspired by designs from none other than Howard Stark, Tony's father. It's amazing how these fictional creations draw on real-world ingenuity and imagination to create something truly extraordinary. Who knows, maybe one day we'll see something similar in real life, revolutionizing the way we approach aerial operations. But for now, how far have we come in the last century with the progress of flying aircraft carriers? The history of flying aircraft carriers. Back in late September 1931, Akron Municipal Airport was buzzing with excitement. Over 150,000 eager spectators gathered to witness a historic event, the maiden flight of the USS Akron, a colossal 785-foot-long airship. As it soared through the skies, it drew comparisons to the famous Hindenburg, though slightly shorter. Among the more than 100 passengers aboard was Navy Secretary Charles Francis Adams, who enjoyed a bird's-eye view of Northeast Ohio from the Akron's vantage point, reaching an altitude of about 1,000 feet during the 4-hour tour. Rear Admiral William Moffett, the first chief of the Navy's Bureau of Aeronautics, expressed his optimism about the Akron's significance, stating, "With the completion of the Akron, the United States resumes world leadership in lighter-than-air craft." Developed by the Navy's lighter-than-air program, the Akron and its sister ship, the USS Macon, were filled with helium, making them capable of flight without the need for external mechanical or technological assistance, such as engines. This program, which spanned from 1915 to 1962, marked the Navy's venture into the realm of flying aircraft carriers. The concept was born out of a desire to enhance naval operations by extending reconnaissance capabilities into the skies. Instead of launching aircraft from ship decks, planes would be released from above. Attached to a skyhook mechanism under the hangar, they would be lowered and released, then retrieved mid-air once their mission was complete. The Navy's experimentation with flying aircraft carriers began with non-rigid dirigibles, such as blimps, in April 1917, coinciding with the U.S. entry into World War I. Despite setbacks, including damage to one airship beyond repair, the program persisted. Notable successes included the USS Shenandoah, which made the first transcontinental flight across the U.S. and back in October 1924, and the USS Los Angeles, which set a record with 331 flights. The Akron and Macon captured the public's imagination with their daring exploits. Whether embarking on transcontinental adventures or conducting patrols along the East Coast, these airships were front-page news. However, their service was not without tragedy. The Akron in particular faced mishaps and downtime, culminating in a devastating crash off the New Jersey coast in April 1933, claiming the lives of 73 crew members, including Rear Admiral Moffett, in what President Franklin D. Roosevelt called a national disaster. One of the fortunate few to survive the crash, Lieutenant Comrade Herbert Wiley, emerged from the disaster and took charge of the crew aboard the USS Macon. Less than 3 weeks after the loss of the Akron, the Macon embarked on its maiden flight. Following test flights in the South, the Macon relocated to California for fleet scouting tests. There, it rendezvoused with the USS Houston, carrying President Roosevelt from Panama to Hawaii. However, the Macon encountered trouble on February 12, 1935, when excessive winds tore off its upper fin, causing it to slowly descend into the waters of California. Thankfully, due to the presence of life jackets and rafts, items that were lacking on the Akron, casualties were minimal, with only 2 sailors losing their lives. The sinking of the Macon marked the end of the Navy's experiment with flying aircraft carriers, but not the end of its involvement with dirigibles. During World War II, the Navy operated 5 airship classes across various theaters of operation. Although their numbers declined post-war, the military maintained 2 squadrons. The decision to close the lighter-than-air program was announced in 1961 and became official the following year. While the Akron and Macon now rest at the bottom of the ocean, the concept of launching aircraft from the skies remains a topic of interest. In the late 1940s, the Air Force conducted tests to launch the Goblin, the smallest fighter jet ever, from a bomber. However, these efforts were abandoned after a year. In the 1970s, though, the U.S. Air Force got in on the action again, toying with the idea of converting large aircraft into flying aircraft carriers. One notable contender was the Boeing 747. Boeing 747, the possible first successful flying carrier. Introduced in 1968, the Boeing 747, known as the Jumbo Jet, was a game-changer in air travel, being more than twice the size of any airliner before it. This revolutionary aircraft not only transformed the aviation industry, but also captured the imagination of many, including visionaries like Juan Trippe, the president of Pan American Airways. Trippe saw the potential of the 747 beyond commercial use. He envisioned how its size could alleviate congested airports and make air travel more accessible to the middle class. His foresight led to Pan Am's order of the first 747s, with Trippe proclaiming it as a great weapon for peace that would connect people worldwide. However, while Trippe envisioned peace, the U.S. Air Force had a different idea. With the introduction of colossal aircraft like the Lockheed C-5, the military saw an opportunity to explore new possibilities. These aircraft, with their immense size, power, and range, sparked the idea of airborne aircraft carriers, capable of projecting air power deep inland within hours. This concept wasn't entirely novel. In the early 1930s, as we already mentioned, the U.S. Navy experimented with airborne aircraft carriers in the form of airships USS Akron and USS Macon. These massive airships, equipped with internal hangars and parasite fighters, aimed to extend scouting ranges and enhance defense capabilities. However, both airships met unfortunate fates due to weather-related accidents. Undeterred by past failures, the Air Force continued to experiment with the concept. In the 1950s, they explored the idea of carrying fighter escorts aboard bombers, aiming to extend their range. This led to the development of the world's tiniest fighter jet, designed to fit entirely inside the bomb bay of B-36 bombers. Despite successful carrier operations, the fighter jets proved too sensitive to turbulence, hindering their effectiveness. Fast forward to 1973, the landscape had evolved with the introduction of the 747 and C-5. These aircraft presented new opportunities for airborne carriers. Boeing, commissioned by the Air Force, proposed using the 747 for the role, leveraging its superior range and cruising speed. The envisioned concept involved housing 10 microfighters within the pressurized hold of the 747, suspended from an overhead conveyor system for launch. According to Boeing's plans, Launching a fighter from the carrier would involve lowering it into a bag, sealing it, depressurizing it, and then releasing it. This process, estimated to take as little as 80 seconds, would allow the deployment of 2 microfighters simultaneously. Recovering a fighter would involve docking with a refueling boom and, if needed, rearming before being brought back inside. The 747 would be packed with essential equipment, including fuel, armament, spare parts, and a crew of 44. This crew would consist of a carrier crew, squadron pilots, and mission specialists, along with sleeping quarters and a crew lounge. However, the success of the concept depended heavily on the miniaturization of the fighters to fit inside the carrier aircraft. These microfighters, with a wingspan of just over 5 meters and about 1/3 the weight of conventional fighters, would be armed with cannons and capable of carrying air-to-air missiles or bombs. Boeing expressed confidence in the microfighters' ability to compete with aircraft like the MiG-21. Airborne carriers could operate from any airfield with adequate space and function as a battle group with aerial refuelers and radar pickets, providing the Air Force with rapid deployment capabilities worldwide. However, despite Boeing's confidence in the concept's feasibility and the potential for service by the late 1980s, the Air Force did not pursue it further. The evolving landscape of air combat throughout the 1960s and 1970s, along with the advancement of fourth-generation fighters by the late 1980s, rendered the concept of lightweight microfighters obsolete. Nevertheless, the Air Force continues to explore innovative carrier concepts. In the coming years, the Department of Defense plans to unveil a new carrier system, this time deploying unmanned drones. In 2019, DARPA and Dynetics announced the successful test of a drone capable of taking off from and landing in a plane like the C-130 Hercules. While less imaginative than the 747-based concept, unmanned drones represent the latest evolution in aerial warfare technology. Is unmanned aerial vehicle the way now? The concept of flying aircraft carriers appeared to have been consigned to history, but then unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, emerged, reshaping combat strategies. The idea of an aviation system comprising a carrier plane and a swarm of drones capable of reconnaissance and attack functions gained traction. These drones fly hundreds of kilometers into enemy territory, execute their missions, and return to their airborne base. While each UAV may not match the performance of an F-35 or F-22, they cost significantly less. This system, strategically, falls between cruise missiles and airplanes. While the former can attack independently, they are costly. Airplane strikes are cheaper, but entail entering the enemy's air defense zone. Employing UAVs allows for efficient reconnaissance or combat missions without risking manned aircraft. Under the Gremlins program, spearheaded by DARPA, efforts are underway to launch and retrieve low-cost reusable UAVs from an airborne mothership swiftly. Gremlins, named after mythical creatures from English military folklore, aims to demonstrate the feasibility of using multiple drones to reduce overhead costs. The initial carrier aircraft was a modified Lockheed C-130 Hercules, tasked with carrying Dynetics X-61A UAVs. The X-61 is a compact drone with a 4.2-meter length and a 3.5-meter wingspan. Equipped with a Williams F107 turbofan engine, it can reach speeds of Mach 0.6. The X-61 is designed to accommodate various payloads, including sensors, electronic warfare systems, and weapons. Concerning flying carriers, the B-36 Peacemaker, a strategic bomber, was considered for an upgrade to carry microfighters in the 1950s. The B-36 was chosen for its colossal size and weight, boasting a wingspan of 230 feet and a weight of a whopping 410,000 pounds when fully loaded. Despite its impressive specs, it never saw operational missions due to the end of World War II. However, its size and range sparked the idea of using it as a flying aircraft carrier. Unfortunately, the rise of mid-air refueling made this concept obsolete. Fast forward to recent years, and the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, has been exploring a new flying carrier program since 2015. They're looking into modifying the Lockheed C-130 Hercules cargo aircraft to deploy and support Dynetics X-61 Gremlins unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, as microfighters. The idea is to launch these drones from the C-130, allow them to complete their missions, and then recover them using a unique air recovery method. Testing has shown promising results, with successful launches of the X-61 Gremlin UAV from the C-130's bay. Despite some setbacks, such as a parachute failure during one test, DARPA remains optimistic about the program. Once fully operational, it could revolutionize aerial warfare by enabling the U.S. to deploy drones from motherships while remaining outside of enemy air defenses. These drones could engage targets before returning to the airspace around the mothership for recapture and maintenance. This program represents the latest in a long line of efforts to harness the power of flying carriers. With ongoing advancements in technology and military strategy, the dream of a supercarrier in the sky is closer than ever. The insane CL-1201 flying aircraft. Lockheed had its sights set even higher with the CL-1201 project. This nuclear-powered behemoth was envisioned to be the size of a traditional aircraft carrier, weighing a staggering 5,265 tons and towering as tall as a 14-story building. This aircraft was so massive that it could span over 1,000 feet in wingspan and measure 500 feet from nose to tail, powered by a nuclear reactor. This flying behemoth, often likened to the Star Trek Enterprise, was envisioned as the ultimate flying aircraft carrier, capable of circumnavigating the globe without refueling, hovering over cities, deploying up to 24 fighter jets, and even carrying 10 nuclear-tipped intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs. But who conceived such an audacious idea? Why was it conceptualized? And why was it never realized? In the 1960s, the American military faced a strategic challenge. With the possibility of being cut off from their overseas allies and bases, there was a pressing need for a solution to maintain global reach and deployment capabilities. While ships had traditionally served this purpose, the advent of jet technology, epitomized by the Boeing 747, opened up new possibilities for faster and more efficient travel. Lockheed got interested as they are always eager for government contracts and eager to rival Boeing's success with the 747. The CL-1201 proposal emerged as Lockheed's ambitious response to this challenge, comprising 3 distinct aircraft: the Krone 2011 attack aircraft carrier, the CL-12012, which we'll delve into shortly, and the Krone 20113 logistics support carrier. Drawing inspiration from a previous submarine hunter blended wing-body concept, Lockheed aimed to create an aircraft with over 2 million cubic meters of internal space, capable of transporting an entire U.S. Army brigade in one swift operation. To put this into perspective, imagine the vastness of space aboard Kirk's Enterprise from Star Trek, and then imagine something 10 times larger. This huge aircraft aimed to redefine the boundaries of aviation capability. It had an internal space so vast that it could accommodate a staggering cargo carrying capacity of 10 to 12 million pounds spread across multiple decks. Much like the legendary Starship Enterprise embarking on its 5-year mission of exploration, this aircraft boasted a capacity to remain airborne for an impressive 41 days straight. With 6 decks dedicated to various functions such as crew sleeping quarters, recreation areas, a mess hall, and strategic command centers, this aircraft was truly a marvel of engineering. And let's not forget its colossal cargo bay, a whopping 22 times larger than the famed Antonov 225. To ensure optimal balance and stability during operations, meticulous coordination was required to prevent any significant shifts in the aircraft's center of gravity. Given its monumental size and the need for extended operational endurance, conventional fuel simply wouldn't suffice. Thus, the CL-1201 was envisioned as a nuclear-powered aircraft, boasting a combined 1.83 gigawatts from its reactor system. This formidable power source enabled the aircraft to fly for an astonishing 48 days straight at a cruising speed of Mach 0.8 and an altitude of over 16,000 feet. Manning such a colossal aircraft necessitated a sizable crew, comprising 475 personnel during standard operations and up to 800 during active combat missions. With the reactor requiring minimal refueling for over 1,000 operational hours, equivalent to roughly 40 days, the CL-1201 promised unparalleled endurance and operational efficiency. The failure of the Lockheed CR-1201. Now, let's delve into the specifics of its design. The attack aircraft carrier variant, designated CR-1201, was envisioned as the spearhead of military invasions and power projection operations, with the capacity to carry up to 24 fighter bombers, including potentially nuclear-tipped long-range attack missiles. This aircraft was designed to serve as a formidable command center during major military engagements. On the other hand, its counterpart, the Logistic Support Aircraft, LSA, designated as CR-120113, focused on logistical support and troop deployment. Capable of accommodating 400 troops and 1,100 tons of cargo, the LSA relied on a fleet of converted Boeing 707s, known as medium intertheater transport planes, to facilitate troop and equipment deployment during flight. However, despite its ambitious design and strategic potential, several flaws and challenges plagued the CL-1201 concept. Perhaps the most glaring issue was the practicality of its takeoff and landing. With its colossal wingspan and hefty weight, existing runways simply couldn't accommodate its size, necessitating the construction of specialized airstrips to support its operations worldwide. Instead of relying on traditional runways, this aircraft would ascend vertically, powered by a whopping 54 turbojet engines derived from the Boeing 747. With each engine generating over 82,000 pounds of thrust, this aircraft was poised to achieve remarkable liftoff capabilities. In the attack variant of the aircraft, a staggering 182 jet engines would be strategically clustered throughout the plane, with each engine grouped in clusters of 20 along the wings. Once airborne and above 16,000 feet, the four colossal turbojet engines, each boasting the diameter of a Boeing 747, would engage, propelling the aircraft forward with incredible force. With rotational speeds exceeding 2,000 rotations per minute, the engine tips would reach supersonic velocities, a technological marvel far ahead of its time. To power this extensive array of engines, the CL-1201 would feature a revolutionary nuclear fission reactor, providing the necessary electrical power for onboard operations. Additionally, a small fuel reserve would serve as a backup to ensure operational reliability. To safeguard the crew from radiation exposure, the 30-foot wide reactor core would be shielded by 20 feet of radiation protection, adding substantial weight to the aircraft. Ensuring safety in the event of a crash, the reactor was designed to shut down within 20 seconds and withstand impacts, such as a head-on collision with a mountain at speeds of 600 miles per hour, without rupturing. Moreover, the aircraft was equipped with laser cannon endpoint defense systems to intercept and neutralize incoming missile threats, a futuristic concept that foreshadowed modern missile defense technologies. Despite its ambitious design and technological innovations, the CL-1201 project ultimately faced insurmountable obstacles, including exorbitant costs and logistical complexities. As a result, the project was shelved and relegated to the realm of outlandish concepts. However, speculation persists regarding the existence of a prototype, fueled in part by the infamous Phoenix Lights incident of March 1997. Witnesses reported observing a massive V-shaped object resembling the size of 747, sparking theories of clandestine aerospace experiments. Coupled with the enigmatic disappearance of the second CL-1201 variant from historical records, conjecture abounds regarding the possibility of a covert spy platform equipped with rudimentary stealth technology, a notion that continues to captivate the imagination of aviation enthusiasts. How possible is the creation of a flying aircraft? When considering the engineering marvel of a flying aircraft carrier, one might wonder about its purpose and feasibility. Despite the risks involved, the advantages it offers are substantial. If one were to envision deploying such a carrier, speed and standoff range would be paramount. This concept promises unparalleled strategic advantages. enabling the deployment of an entire battle group anywhere in the world, regardless of geographical barriers or weather conditions. However, addressing the engineering challenges posed by such an ambitious project is crucial. Firstly, the issue of defensibility must be tackled. Unlike traditional aircraft carriers, which rely on support vessels for defense, a flying aircraft carrier must be self-sufficient. To enhance its defensive capabilities, the carrier would be equipped with autonomous drones designed to carry heavy munitions. These drones, featuring advanced stealth features and lightweight construction, would provide both defense and offense capabilities. Moreover, the carrier's standoff range would serve as its primary defense mechanism. These autonomous drones, acting as range extenders, could engage enemy targets while maintaining a safe distance from potential threats. Additionally, a massive AWACS radar dish atop the carrier would provide comprehensive aerial coverage, ensuring early detection of any hostile activities. To address the challenge of prolonged airborne operations, the concept of aircraft nuclear propulsion is proposed. By utilizing a nuclear thermal exchanger to heat the air and drive turbines, the carrier could remain airborne for extended periods. This concept offers promising potential for achieving sustained flight. However, it's important to acknowledge that the proposed solution involves a simulated nuclear thermal engine rather than a functional one. Despite this limitation, the goal is to explore the possibilities of nuclear propulsion and its implications for long-duration flight. The Galaxy Mastodon is an example of a colossal aircraft, which boasts engines with a 4-meter diameter at the intake. Each engine is equipped with its own nuclear thermal features, including reactors and radiators, controlled based on throttle response. In a simulated scenario, these engines were found to provide approximately 300,000 horsepower each when linked to their respective reactors. When connected to counter-rotating propellers and a reverse-ducted turboprop setup, the aircraft generated over 1,000 tons of thrust during takeoff, a feat that could lift substantial structures effortlessly. Despite the awe-inspiring power of these engines, their weight presents a significant challenge. The reactors, along with their radiation shielding, add considerable mass to the aircraft. However, the sheer size and autonomy of the Sky Carrier provide a unique advantage. The autonomous sections, sealed off from the crewed areas, offer a level of protection from radiation exposure. Maintenance workers, equipped with radiation suits, can safely perform tasks on turbines or reactors during flight, ensuring the carrier's operational integrity. Furthermore, the aircraft's design, reminiscent of a flying wing, is optimized for carrying heavy payloads, including airborne reactors and parasite fighters. The addition of a large AWACS radar dish enhances situational awareness, allowing the carrier to detect and respond to threats effectively. Additionally, anti-munition missiles and closing weapon systems are strategically placed along the fuselage to intercept incoming threats, further bolstering the carrier's defenses. In terms of interior design, basic reactor controls, emergency fire extinguishers, and even emergency supplies like a bottle of whiskey are included. The landing gear, although not modeled in the game, was conceptualized to mitigate ground pressure and ensure safe landings. Other minor details, such as weathering markings and maintenance indicators, were added to enhance realism and immersion. Overall, the design of the Sky Carrier represents a fusion of engineering ingenuity and strategic foresight. While it may seem fantastical, it embodies a forward-thinking approach to aerial warfare, pushing the boundaries of what is possible in aviation technology. Through meticulous planning and innovative problem-solving, the Sky Carrier emerges as a formidable asset in modern military operations. Ultimately, while the idea of a flying aircraft carrier may seem far-fetched, it serves as a fascinating exploration of innovative engineering concepts and strategic military capabilities. Through creative problem-solving and technological innovation, the boundaries of aerial warfare continue to be pushed, paving the way for future advancements in aviation. Thanks for watching. Check out another of our videos.